It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the graduation ceremony of the 2019 class of the Medical School for International Health. I ask you please to stand in honor of the academic procession. It is my pleasure to invite the graduating students of the 2019 class to take their places. Professor Alan Jotkovich, Director of MSIH. Professor Amos Katz, Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences. Professor Chaim Hames, Rector and President of Gurion University of the Negev, Professor Daniel Chamovich. Please be seated. Distinguished guests, faculty members, students, families and friends, thank you all for being with us today. I'd like to give a special welcome to those watching us through our webcast, including our staff in the New York office. I would like to invite the Director of MSIH, Professor Alan Jotkovich, to make his opening remarks.
Thank you very much and welcome. Professor Danny Chaimovitz, President of Ben-Gurion University, Professor Chaim Hames, Rector of the University, Professor Amos Katz, Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, Mr. Lloyd Goldman, Professor Sharon Nachman, our guest speaker, Professor Carmen Margolis, the founding director of MSIH, and Professor Glick. Colleagues, staff, friends, and students of MSIH, family of MSIH students, and most importantly, the class of 2019. It is truly an honor to stand here and welcome everyone to our 19th graduation ceremony. Today, many of you have fulfilled a lifelong dream of becoming a physician. I know how hard you have worked and am in awe of your accomplishments, dedication, enthusiasm, and values. And what a dream it is to become a physician. I truly feel it is a privilege, honor, and a responsibility to join our sacred profession. By your actions and hard works, you have provided an answer to all those naysayers who told you that in today's environment, it's not worth the time, effort, money, and hard work to become a physician. Of course it is. It is the greatest profession in the world. And I am sure each of you, in your own way, will contribute to the unique mission of BGU and MSIH to make the world a healthier, safer, and better place for all its citizens, no matter where they live. Welcome new doctors and colleagues, and I expect great things from all of you following in the footsteps of our previous alumni. I also have the special opportunity to welcome to their first MSIH graduation, and maybe their first graduation, our new president and rector, who are both great friends of MSIH and fully committed to its values and mission. Professor Danny Chaimovitz grew up in the United States and studied at both Columbia University and Hebrew University, received a PhD in genetics and plant biology before joining the faculty of Tel Aviv University, where he became professor and dean of the Faculty of Life Science, and last year, to our great benefit, was elected president of Ben Gurion University. Professor Chaim Hames was born in England, and after he made Aliyah, studied at Hebrew University and received a PhD in medieval history from Cambridge, and joined the faculty of BGU in 1995, becoming a professor and dean of the Faculty of Humanities before becoming rector also last year. I would like now to ask President Chaimovitz to say a few words.
This is my favorite program because I can speak in English. It's true. Yeah. So family, staff, I would say graduates or doctors. Congratulations. You know, in 1998, the BGU Faculty of Health Sciences, in collaboration with Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons, initiated a new joint MD program. The MD program at MSIH follows a 4-year North American-style curriculum taught in English by BGU faculty. The affiliation between BGU and Columbia helps combine MSIH's international reputation as a leader in humanistic approaches for community medicine with Columbia's reputation for excellence in medical education. Centered on principles of effective cross-cultural medical practice, the MSIH curriculum includes studies in international preventive medicine, geographic medicine, tropical diseases, global environment, and refugee and disaster medicine. Since the program's launch, some 500 physicians have graduated from MSIH, many of whom have chosen to relocate and practice medicine internationally. Our graduates can be found in Haiti, Ethiopia, Jordan, Uganda, Kenya, among other countries. And many who go on to enter the medical profession in the United States and Canada keep with the MSIH spirit and have great influence on the profession. I'm sure you've been told many times about the impressive and important work that many of your predecessors are doing. And I just want to remind you of one of them, Dr. Joseph Sharon, now the Director of Emergency Surgery at Johns Hopkins, but he's also a leading medical activist who is focused on making gun control a public health concern. He exemplifies how an outstanding medical career can be juxtaposed with true social impact. In that spirit, I urge you to go forth into the world and apply your expertise in places that need you. Be our ambassadors to the world, bringing the message of community-oriented medicine, the spirit of Beersheba, wherever you go. Congratulations.
Thank you, Professor Chaimovitz. I'd like to invite the rector, Professor Chaim Hames, to address the audience. Professor Hames, please. You better say it in the right order.
Short and sweet. Professor Danny Shamovitz, Professor Amos Katz, Professor Alan Jotkovich, our distinguished guest speaker, Professor Sharon Nachman, Mr. Lloyd Goldman, colleagues, and last but not least, our graduating class and their families and friends. Good evening, one and all. Galen, as you are probably all aware, was one of the most important physicians in the ancient world. He lived in the 2nd century AD in the Roman Empire. He was a brilliant observer of the natural world and of humans and wrote widely. Many of his books have come down to us thanks to his medieval readers who copied his works again and again. In a sense, Galen was also interested in global health. He traveled widely, often not from choice, but because of his success and reputation, he was a commodity in demand by the Roman emperors and their retinues. He comments on medical practices that he observed. For instance, he stated wryly that the doctors with the Roman army, who were given permission to cut open the bodies of the German barbarians, learned no more from the dissection than the cooks in the kitchen. He said that the only thing they learned was where the entrails were. He also gives an account of medical men gathering in Rome to observe the dissection of an elephant's heart in order to discover whether it had 1 or 2 vertices and 2 or 3 ventricles. Galen seemingly glibly told them before they started that they should not expect anything exceptional, and that an elephant's heart would be no different from any other living animal. Less anecdotally and more importantly, Galen was of the opinion that the study of anatomy was just as crucial for a philosopher as for a physician. Knowing the different parts of the body is useful for the doctor, but much more so, he said, for the philosopher of medicine who strives to obtain knowledge of all nature. In other words, what Galen maintained was that a good doctor also needs to be a philosopher, and vice versa. The body and soul are interconnected, and the health of one very much impacts on the other. 21st century medicine seems to be slowly catching up with Galen. As you leave Ben Gurion University of the Negev and go out to heal people, remember the lessons that you have learned here. Look your patients in the eye. Have empathy. Listen to what they have to say. You may actually learn something important about what ails them. Primum non nocere. Firstly, harm not. Refers not only to your patients, but to each and every one of you as well. Do not forget to look after yourselves and take care of your own needs so that you can be better doctors. Your coming here to study medicine with an emphasis on global health has brought you into contact with a broad variety of populations and cultures in a tiny geographic area, and I'm sure has prepared you well for the tasks and challenges awaiting you. So, be good emissaries of Ben Gurion University of the Negev wherever you end up. Please stay in touch and come back and visit. In parting, let me conclude with a rather witty ditty of a Jewish physician from Barcelona, Joseph ibn Zabara, who was born 879 years ago and wrote in his Book of Delights, and I quote, "Fortune says to the fool, become a quack. You kill your patients and take their wealth. You will be better off than the angel of death, who for nothing deprives them of their health." Good luck and b'hatzlacha to you.
Thank you, Professor Hames. I'd like to invite the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, Professor Amos Katz, to say a few words.
Good evening. You heard an American accent, an English accent, a Scottish accent, and now it's going to be an Israeli accent. So, Professor Daniel Chaimovich, President, Professor Chaim Hames, Director, our guest of honor, Professor Sharon Nachman, Chief of Pediatric Infectious Disease, State University of New York, Mr. Lloyd Goldman, Professor Annie Ludkovich, Director of MSIH, distinguished guest, and last but certainly most foremost, our dear graduates and young colleagues, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to the celebration of the graduation of 27 students from the MSIH. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Lloyd Goldman, who is with us sitting on the first row, on his appointment as the new chairman of the Ben Gurion University Board of Governors, who has been a stand supporter of the university for many years. Actually, together with his sisters, Dorian and Katya Goldman, they provided significant support to establish and to maintain the Israeli Medical School, which is called after their late parents, Joyce and Irving Goldman, and they are supporting, being generous beneficiary of MSIH. Lloyd, it's certainly a great honor to have you with us today. Dear graduates, on this special day of your graduation, I'm sure that each one of you is feeling a great sense of achievement and pride, and that your experience in Israel, which is with the good and the bad, will serve you for the future. You learn to function in a foreign, multicultural society, far from your home, where patients speak Hebrew, Arabic, and Russian, very often under conditions that are very far cry for the milieu of your home surrounding, like the one that we experienced 2 to 3 weeks ago. I'm sure that the many difficulties you overcome have in many ways enriched your lives, broadened your horizon, and have endowed you with maturity, perseverance, and a sense of achievement. All this and the wide medical knowledge that you have attained during your 4 years at Ben-Gurion and MSIH will undoubtedly serve you in the future to become leaders of a new kind of medical education that addresses the need for physicians who are sensitive to personal and population needs, community issues, and global health. We are proud of your formal achievement in the match for residency training in some of the most prestigious university hospitals. We are especially gratitude about 7 of the graduates that are staying here for the internship. And we are also gratified at the high number of graduates that has chosen residency in medicine, pediatrics, family medicine, and general surgery. In the current reality of the medical world, where potential income is related to a large extent career choice, this is also a proof of your special quality and dedication. I wish you all a good luck, good health, success, and satisfaction on entering today the wonderful world of medicine. I especially wish to thank your families who, in spite of understandable apprehension throughout those years of unrest in this region, supported you in pursuing your goals. I hope that your Beersheba, Ben-Gurion, and MSIH experience will remain as a significant period in your life. May you continue to be blessed, and that the skills you have acquired at Ben-Gurion will serve and guide you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Katz. Now, just before I call upon Dr. Jodkovich to introduce our guest speaker, I'm told that we've got a surprise guest in the audience. Is Lieutenant Colonel Brian Neese from the United States Air Force here? Brian, welcome. Brian is an alumnus of MSIH, and you graduated in what year? 2005. Welcome, Brian. He's also the past chairman of the Alumni Association of MSIH. Welcome. And now I'd like to hand over to Professor Jodkovich to introduce our distinguished guest speaker.
Thank you, Mike. It is my honor to introduce my good friend, Professor Sharon Ackerman, to be our commencement speaker. Now, when I asked Sharon to be the commencement speaker, I asked her maybe the duplicate what Robert F. Smith did a couple of days at Morehouse College to fulfill all the graduate student loans. But alas, Sharon refused my request, but she's still here. Sorry, guys. But more important, Sharon is Chief of Pediatric ID at Stony Brook University and Professor of Pediatrics and Head of the International Pediatric AIDS TB Clinical Trial Network. But more important than all her titles is the fact that she is the consummate clinician and role model for young physicians who will do whatever she can and in all her powers for her patients at all hours and time of the day. She is tenacious, brilliant, and dedicated. And again, a great role model for young physicians and even older physicians like me. Since the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, she has taken care of hundreds of kids with HIV and has led clinical trials in AIDS TB in the United States, Sub-Saharan Africa, and South America, and is making a difference in the treatment of these diseases. She is the perfect, and I thought she is the perfect person to be a commencement speaker for MSIH with our emphasis on global health. So, Dr. Nachman.
So, good afternoon to the graduates. As I look around, I think it was just a few years ago that I was sitting in your seats also as a graduate. But then I wake up, I look in the mirror, I see my gray hair, and I realize it probably was a bit longer than just a few years ago. So I'm hoping to, by my comments today, to inspire you to think of how you can change medicine for the future. Don't rely on us old fogies. The next course is up to you. Remember, when I was first applying to med school, things were a bit different. I was a high school senior applying to a 6-year BSMD program. I went to Yeshiva High School in New York. The principal pulled me out of class one day and said, "Sharon, if you want to marry a doctor, this is not the right way to do it." No, my husband is not a physician. So I went to the 6-year BSMD program, and I was very interested in seeing what was happening both in New York as well as around the world. In those days, yes, in those days, we didn't have computers. We actually went to the library and found journals. And you had to time when you went to the library to find the journal, because if you didn't get there at the right time, somebody else got it first. So I read everything I could put my hands on, including some of the most boring journals you've ever seen, like the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. Those 4 pages of print were written by someone who had no sense of humor. It was just fact after fact. And when it was time for me to graduate, I found a very interesting report about 20 men who lived in San Francisco who all acquired an infection called pneumocystis. I read this very few paragraphs and I thought, this doesn't apply to me. It's men, they're in San Francisco, who ever heard of this word pneumocystis? They're inventing new pathogens for me. This doesn't apply to me at all. And as I stand here today, I can tell you, lesson 1 is you are wrong. Read everything you can. Read it at all times of the day or night, because you don't know what will be important to me. And that short report was the first event of HIV and the HIV epidemic, both in the US and worldwide. And that report continued to change my career for the next 30 years, because that is all I really do these days. So I went on to do a residency, and I noticed something very striking. Our kids were dying. We didn't know why they were dying. We didn't have a test for HIV. We all thought they had some exotic disease. We isolated those kids, and we didn't know what was going to happen, except if they had these different presentations, it was written in stone, they were going to die. And soon after I finished my residency, we in fact had the first test for HIV. Unfortunately, it didn't work in young children. It was good for adults, but wasn't going to help me. Then it was time for a fellowship. So I applied and got accepted to a fellowship in pediatric infectious disease at Lincoln, a hospital in the South Bronx. For those of you who know, the South Bronx at that time was quite a dangerous place. Street gangs were there, buildings were burning. It was so dangerous that the hospital guards who were armed every evening walked me to my car, not to make sure that I got in the car, but that the car had 4 tires and it would start. I could go, so I would come back to work, in fact, the next day. It was a wonderful place to do international medicine because everyone from around the world had some relative in the Bronx. They came with their diseases and came to the hospital because they were sure we would help them. So I saw malaria and TB and measles and mumps and my first case of leprosy. To this day, I don't understand why my friends around the Shabbat table weren't as excited as I was. Leprosy, how good could it be? That's what I saw today. But in fact, those kids were still dying, and we didn't know what to do for them. I then went on to do a postdoctoral fellowship at Lincoln, at New York, at Rockefeller University, and then it was time to apply for a job. And I, like you, sat down and wrote those begging letters. Hey, don't you want me? I'll be great for your institution. And I got a lot of no responses. I only got one yes response from Stony Brook. And I said, great, I'd love to have an interview. But by the time I got for the interview, the chair that had invited me retired. So there was an acting chair who kind of looked at me and said, oh, infectious disease? We don't have infections in Long Island. Oh, okay, great. But interestingly enough, they offered me the job, and I said, great. By the time it was time for me to start the job, there was a new chairman in the department. I walked in the first day, and I said hello to him, and he looked at me, who are you? And Carmen, what are you going to do here? I said, don't worry, even though I'm the only pediatric ID doctor, not for the hospital, but for the entire county, I've got this covered. Don't worry, I know what I'm going to do. And he said, as long as you see the patients, I'm okay with that. So I made rounds every day, every weekend. Often on the weekends, I would bring some of my younger kids who were little at the time with me. And I said, wait a second, if I have to see patients and do everything, how am I going to apply for grant money? But luckily enough, NIH in the early 1990s recognized that individuals could not fix the HIV epidemic. It took a concerted group effort, and for the first time, they funded a clinical trials network for adults and for children. And I said, well, great idea. I'm going to submit a grant to this clinical trial network after 2 years on the job. And luckily enough, they looked at the grant and funded it. And I thought, look how easy it is. You just apply to NIH and they send you money. It's not that easy these days. But luckily enough, I became a clinical trials unit for this pediatric network. There was only one problem. We didn't have any clinical trials. So finally in 1992-93, a colleague of mine from New Jersey said, we have so many HIV-infected women, and they're all having babies who also have HIV. We have to do something about it. So he wrote, his name was Ed Connor, he wrote that first clinical trial showing that perhaps if we gave medicine to HIV-infected pregnant women, we would stop their transmission to their infants. At this time, I was pregnant with my third child, and so what was getting consent from other women who I identified as HIV-infected, we knew they were pregnant, and telling them, sign this consent. We're going to give you an experimental medication that we've never given to adults, we've never given to pregnant women. We have no idea if it's going to be toxic to the babies. Don't you want to sign that consent? And looking these families in the face, they said, would you sign it? And I'd have to think long and hard about if I was in their shoes, granted I was pregnant, and they were pregnant, when I signed this consent. And by me saying yes, I would, they also signed the consent. And so, of course, that study was wonderfully successful. The data was broken on a Friday to show that the AZT, in fact, prevented transmission from mother to baby. Now, I sat in my office on a Friday and said, I have to find all of those women. So those that had phones, I called and said, come in, I have good news. But those that had no phones, I sent the police out to find, because it was not going to be the kind of thing I would wait many days before I switched out those that had placebo and gave them active drug. I didn't get home until late that night, early the next morning, but before I came home, everybody had active drug. So now my career moved forward, and I was still the solo practitioner. And I learned my next lesson. If you don't know something, call someone. See, here I was, a young investigator out in Stony Brook, and I would see a kid with Kawasaki, and I would look up in the literature, oh, Stan Schulman for Chicago, he does Kawasaki, I'll call him. Oh, I had a kid with a different illness, a kid with a different herpes infection. I saw Myron Levin's name all over the place. He was out in Denver. Let me call him. And everybody was gracious. And I made my circle of friends who were both pediatric infectious doctors, junior and senior, around the country and sometimes around the world, and said, hi, my name is Sharon. I have a problem with a kid. Can you help me? And they were very gracious and helped me. And I learned that lesson about it's important to not only talk to people your age, talk to people who are older, talk to people who are younger, because you never know who's going to help you to take care of your patients. My career moved on. HIV-infected kids were still dying. Granted, we did some good job on preventing transmission, but we didn't know how to treat our kids. And I learned my lesson from Ed Connor, who wasn't shy about knocking on pharma doors and saying, give me medication. And I, with a few colleagues who sat in the back of the room and heckled the senior speakers in the front, decided we were going to write our own trial. So we bothered multiple pharma companies and said, just give us drug. We'll write the trial. We'll save those kids. I guess we were either very persuasive or very obnoxious. They gave us the drugs, and we wrote our first multi-drug trial to show that, in fact, 2 drugs from 2 different classes made a difference. And using just monotherapy or drugs from the same class wasn't going to effectively treat HIV-infected kids. I knew I was close to making it when our international HIV conference, with a small audience of 5,000, sat there quietly while I was introduced by David Ho as a young investigator who was going to make a difference. They listened to the presentation, and the next day, guidelines changed. Don't give 1 drug, give 2 drugs from 2 different classes, because that would make a difference. My career moved on, and I was very pushy or aggressive about getting new drugs into children. And now pharma companies were investing in other new drugs, and they said, hey, we remember that Nachman character. She was a real character, but she got the job done. Let's call her. And a company called Merck had a new drug from a new class called integrase inhibitors. There was no data in children, no dose in children, nothing. And they said, if we give you the drug, are you going to get this drug licensed for us? And I said, of course I am. I got this. And I, with a couple of my friends, again, from sitting in the back of the room, wrote a series of drug trials, both for domestic HIV-infected children and international children, guaranteeing the families that if this drug got licensed, they would have access to it for the rest of their lives, because this drug would, in fact, treat their HIV. And so it happened. We wrote study after study. We figured out the dose. It wasn't the same as the adult dose. We figured out how to give it in sub-Saharan Africa. You can't throw the remainder of the liquid down the sink, because then you'll be giving the entire community subtherapeutic doses of the drug. How to dispose of it, how to use it, how to keep a drug that didn't need refrigeration viable. And we, in fact, changed WHO guidelines. And I knew I had made it when I sat in an audience at an international meeting, and the head of the HIV branch from WHO put up the slides. Here's our recommendations for first-line treatment of HIV in children. And there was my name, Nachman, Nachman, and Nachman, as the person who had written all of the studies to get those drugs licensed and used into first-line therapy. So I was a success, but is that enough? And the answer is, of course it's not enough. I kept pushing and pushing for more studies and more drugs and more trials, moved up through the ranks of the network, and now, in fact, I am the PI, or the lead of the network. I run the network. So it is not enough to be a good scientist. You have to do that. It's not enough to be a good teacher. You have to do that. It's not enough to be a good clinician. You have to do that. But you also have to be an economist and recognize who has the money, where's the money coming from, how are we going to spend the money, because all of those things together will make a difference. So my recommendation or request to you as young graduates is, first of all, read. Doesn't what you're doing, where you're doing, or what your field of medicine is. Keep reading stuff you learn, stuff that you don't think you'll ever use. You don't know what will be helpful. The second is talk to your friends. Make new friends. Talk to colleagues, because sometimes you will help them, and sometimes they will help you. And the third lesson is don't talk to the patients while you're typing on the computer. Look at them. These are your patients. They will answer your questions. But if you sit with your back to the patient while you type because you're hurrying up to get to the next thing, you'll actually never get a good history. And that's really the most important thing. It's asking the questions, getting the answers, because that's going to help take care of your patients. So I say Mazal Tov to you and your families and the entire audience. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing you at meetings in the future.
Don't type on your computers while you're speaking to your patients. I wonder how that will go down in this country. I would like to thank Professor Nachman for that very interesting talk. And now I would like to invite the rector, Professor Chaim Hames, to read the formal wording of the diploma. Students, please rise.
Ready? Okay. I hereby declare that you have completed your studies and successfully fulfilled all the necessary requirements in accordance with the Ben-Gurion University's Constitution and bylaws. And, based on your achievements and on the recommendation of the Council of the Faculty of Health Sciences, the Senate of Ben-Gurion University of the Negev confers upon you this day, Wednesday, May the 22nd, 2019, the degree of Doctor of Medicine.
I would like to invite Professors Chaimovich, Hames, and Katz to present the MD diplomas to our graduates. I invite Dr. Jodkovich to read the names of the graduates in alphabetical order.
Liran Baranis. J. Joseph Burkus. What? Ethan Joel Chodesh. Jonah Cohen. Did we? Megan Smith Doherty. Oops. Solar Falavar. Howard Saul Freeman. Shane Aaron Greenberg. Catherine Ida Halper. Luke Emmanuel Hartman. Yeah. Hu Ji Shi. Lucy, congratulations. Aaron Hokeman Zimmerman. Mark Justin Hilarides. I do that okay? Tamara Rose Cleo. Congratulations. Ayal Levy. You got a good welcome? Rafael Marreros. Chloe Pinto. Joshua Eric Palacella. Chelsea Lynn Powell. Congratulations. Dominic Thomas Eustaris Razone. Eliane Rosanas. Jacob Nathaniel Sanker. Congratulations. Joseph Sofair. Elena Sochov. Congratulations. Flair Vaknin. Samuel Curtis Weissman. Congratulations. Stephen Tyler Zilberman. Congratulations.
Sure.
What I didn't say when I spoke, and perhaps I should have said, was to also say thank you on behalf of, I don't know, maybe you'll say that as well, but thank you to all the staff and the teachers of the MSIH for all that they've done for you over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professors Chamovich, Hames, Katz, and Jodkiewicz, and congratulations to all our new graduates. It now gives me great pleasure to call upon Dr. Aaron Zimmerman, who was chosen by his classmates to make the students' valedictory address.
Here we are. Thank you again, professors at the dais. Thank you, Mr. Diamond, for the introduction. Thank you, Professor Nachman, for the talk and coming from, like myself, all the way from Long Island. And what a schlep from exit 62 on the expressway. All right, we good? Mike. Oh, I'll scooch? Okay. Right. Here we are. Thank you to our live studio audience, everyone tuning in at home. Thank you for being here. I always find it interesting, if you think about it, where we all began, in New York for me, and where it began for you, where you traveled, all the things we've all seen and done. And little did we know all the while, the course of events that would lead us all, individuals, here today, together in this room on this very day. And this very day, we've been working towards this very day. All of us, professors, instructors, administrators, everyone, all of us have been working for this all the time, the frustration and the effort, the ideas and dreams we've had that probably changed and then maybe changed back again. The time we studied, we passed an exam, perhaps not on the first try. We studied everything, we forgot everything, we remembered everything, passed another one, and so on like that. And then we got out into the wards, the practical stuff, where some days you felt like you were doing so well that they'd pin a medal on you. And then the next day you felt so clueless, you were wondering if they were about to send you downstairs for a head CT. And through it all, it's still a bit shocking that this day has finally come. And we're more or less no worse for the wear. I mean, right? We survived. Can you believe it? So here we are, all of us together, perhaps for the last time, all of us, to remember those good old days when we argued for our preferred study methods and study aids around the lunch table. When we headed straight to Agadir after our exams. That's Agadir the burger place, not Agadir the city. To remember Chloe's fascination for the medevac helicopters, Sam's unflagging support for the ketogenic diet, Justin's unflagging support for wearing Hawaiian shirts all the time, Rafi's dream of becoming a doctor on the high seas, and the look of disappointment on Shane's face when there were no more hard-boiled eggs in the break room. And my long stories that probably had a point when I started. So that is us, and here we are. But from here, degrees in hand, we all have our own paths to follow. Each chosen path means leaving one behind and maybe discovering new ones far along the way. It means making little changes, little course corrections, finding new ways to be satisfied with what you do and who you are. Yeah, I don't know. We ran out of time? How about now?
One second. We have a standby.
Hello? Okay. All right. Where did I cut out? All right. Every new path means leaving others behind and finding new ones farther along. So that is to say, because as we go through our careers and our lives, it's, of course, impossible to be 100% sure what will come in the future. And now that, there we go. And now that we are all men and women of science, I think that comes at a price, and the price is never being sure of things. It means saying evidence suggests instead of I'm sure. So we'll have to be creative and flexible and driven to find ways to serve the communities that we've come from and the ones we're headed towards. What will we contribute? Well, it feels, at this point anyway, a little bit like arrogance to say, trust me with your own life, with the lives of your family. I know what to do. So I'm working to convince myself that I'm not some imposter, that I belong here. And yet they just gave us degrees. It says MD and everything. I mean, here we are, after all. So now I'm stuck. I want to end by saying I'm sure every one of us will go on to achieve all of our wildest dreams, but all I have is evidence suggests. Or no, perhaps just for this special occasion I have something a little bit better. And I didn't discuss this with everyone, but you made me get up here, so you're all on the hook now. Here's what we will do. We will follow our hearts and our minds. We will do our best. We will do the right thing the best way we know how. And will it always work out? Probably not always. This class has seen a few setbacks. But we always knew that the only real way to fail is to quit. And every time we tripped, we got up stronger and smarter and better. And guess what, guys? We made it. We're here. Here we are for the class of 2019. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmerman. My microphone's working, yes? Okay. Prior to concluding, it is customary for our school to present some special awards. I call upon Associate Director of Student Affairs, Dr. Asher Moser, to join me on the stage.
Okay, as your Dean of Students, I get the honor to introduce the recipients of several awards. First, we'll start with the Gold Humanism Honor Society. The GHHS, as it's known, is an international initiative that honors medical students, physicians, and recently joined nurses who have demonstrated an unusual commitment to humanistic service of the medically needed fellow human being. Through peer and faculty nominations, students are selected at the end of their third year, meaning that this year inductees were announced 1 year ago. They are identified by their unique humanistic approach and compassion in caregiving. We, MSIH, are delighted to announce that from this graduating class of 2019, doctors Aaron Zimmerman, Ayal Levy, Elena Sukov, and Jay Beckers. Wait. Have been elected as class inductees for their work and commitment to humanism. I will now read out the oath and ask you to acknowledge by answering the Amen. The Gold Humanism Honor Society Oath. I pledge, by all that I hold dear as a physician, I will care for my patients with compassion, respect, empathy, integrity, and clinical excellence. I will listen to my patients with my whole being, not through a computer. I will advocate for each patient as a unique individual. I will serve as a role model and mentor to promote humanism in healthcare. I will remember always the healing power of acts and caring, and I will dedicate myself to joining with others to make health care optimal for all. And you answer, Amen. Thank you. Now we need to... The next award we want to present is the Sakal Heave Award. This particular award is to honor a truly unique man, our fellow and colleague, the late Dr. Sakal Heave, a graduate of the 2017 class. As his wife and mother of their 5 children, Faith has so perfectly put in words, this award is meant to be given to one who has joy in studying medicine, one who cherishes the value of human life, one who can brighten the lives of those around them, and all this while living life to its fullest and for more than oneself. The wording is intentionally put in the present tense. The Sakal Heave Award is given to a student who can be identified as one who can see during the schooling years that the true role of what we see behind the title of MD or physician is in the greater sense that of a healer. We ask the students and the staff to point out the most worthy candidates. The person honored this year has shown all of the above mentioned qualities. Born on a kibbutz to a mixed Israeli-Canadian parents in Israel, a veteran of the Israeli Army from Calgary, Alberta, Dr. Ayal Levy. Ayal. One more. Great. The Richard Deckelbaum Award for Global Health Excellence. Professor Deckelbaum, who's this award honors and had spent many months throughout his lifetime on missions around the globe, could not be here with us this year. And I would like Professor Jodkowitz to come up here and help me present this award. This award is granted to the student who excelled during the preclinical stages of various topics and subjects related to international health, which is our flag. Furthermore, our students are required to complete an 8-week clerkship, mostly in developing countries or regions, and during this time they're required to write a blog and share with their classmates. Fascinating material. Upon return to MSIH, we have a gala affair and celebration to share these experiences. This year, we award a person that I personally had the honor of interviewing some 4 years ago. He was very worried because he had a few B's on his undergraduate studies. From Denver, Colorado, please welcome Dr. Jay Burkus. There were a few. I checked again. And last, I would like to present the Carmen Margolis Award for Clinical Excellence. And for that, I would like my mentor and my tutor, Professor Margolis, to come up here and to help me present this award. This award is given to the graduating student who has been noted once and again for his or her unique clinical insights and skills. The criteria on which this award is granted are the evaluations they received from their preceptors of their clinical clerkships and elective, both here and abroad, the OSCE examinations that take place throughout their studies, the Part 2 of the USMLE, which is the clinical knowledge and skills, and through the cross-evaluation of the class as reflected in the Gold Humanism Honor Society mentioned before. This year we had several excellent and outstanding candidates for this award. The recipient of this year, standing above all, is one who was born in the Soviet Union, graduated high school not far from here at Eshel, served in the Air Force, educated in Canada, came back to the MSIH, and today we honor Dr. Elena Sukol.
I was really afraid that I wouldn't know the person that I was presenting this award to, but I know Elena very well, and I'm delighted to be able to give her an award that she richly deserves. And since I particularly like to do things that I'm not allowed to do, and I certainly am not allowed to speak now, I must tell you that last year I couldn't be here because I wasn't in the country. This year I almost wasn't here because I was in a bad accident in the beginning of February. But here I walked up on this stage to give the award. And almost every doctor, most of the nurses, all the physiotherapists, and some MSIH students, all these people who took care of me and brought me to my present state are BGU graduates. So Elena, take it from there.
Thank you, Dr. Moser. Now I'd like to call upon Professor Ben Tarragon, our Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, to announce this year's Outstanding Teacher.
Thank you very much. It's challenging always to teach students who are so bright, who have excelled so much in their career that they probably don't need teachers. You can just ask them. But we do like to recognize at this point teachers who have made tremendous contributions to educating our students. And so with that, we have two separate awards. One is for a preclinical, so the first 2 years teacher, and the second award is for a clinical teacher. And you know, they each paid me a certain amount to be first, but fortunately it was already decided, so I just pocketed the money. Our first awardee is Dr. Micha Avram. Micha, are you here? There he is. Micha, as he walks up, is the director of the respiratory systems course during the first 2 years. He's also a pediatric pulmonologist, which means, fortunately for me, I have a lot to do with him. And in addition, he's one of the few people who calls me every Chag right beforehand to say, have a good Chag. And it's very fortunate. So, Dr. Avram. Thank you.
Distinguished guests and dear graduates, I would like to thank you for this certificate of appreciation that you are presenting me today. I would especially like to thank Ellen and Ben. A lot of people should be standing here with me sharing this honor. All those who over the years have participating in teaching pulmonary course taking in your second year. Two of them are especially important and deserve to be mentioned in this celebration. Professor Stephen Scherf, who from day one of the medical school here has been teaching the complex subject of physiology of respiratory system for the last 21 years, has kept coming here to share his knowledge with the student. And the second is Professor Ken Prager, who has been a part of the program from the very beginning and who, in spite of his multiple tasks and activity, has continued coming year after year for more than 12 years to increase the student knowledge in the clinical aspect of adult pulmonary medicine. Many thanks for these two esteemed teachers and to all the others who have been a vital part of educating students in pulmonary medicine. I wish you all much success in your work as the new generation of doctors.
Our second awardee, who is equally deserving, serves a very important role in educating our students. As you may be aware, many of our students are pursuing careers in primary care, and the bedrock for primary care is family medicine. So I am happy to announce that this year's awardee for clinical excellence in teaching is for Dr. Avram Dunsky.
Nobody told me that I had the chance to talk, but I saw my teacher, Dr. Aviram. He was when I was a student here, I'm a graduate of Beersheba, and he was my pulmonology teacher. And it's an honor for me to stand here after him. I remember when I was a first-year student, there was no cell phones, and the most valuable thing is to be able to talk on the phone to your parents. So I always took the phone and tell the man in the operator, "This is Aviram." And they said, okay, I will give you a line. I was the only student that could do this, and I was not lying. I remember this class especially. It was a great honor and a pleasure to teach you, and I wish you all good luck with your careers, and I hope that most of you will come to family medicine.
Toda rabba. I call upon Dr. Jotkiewicz to conclude our ceremony.
Okay, I think this is the most important part of the ceremony, the thank yous. I just first want to take this opportunity to thank the parents and partners of our graduates. You can't do medical school alone. They support you all the time. They're there for you all the time, and they truly are celebrating with you today. So I think a round of applause for all of them. I also, on behalf of all of us, want to give a special thank you to the MSIH staff, led dedicatedly by Ms. Leora Nawi, and for arranging this ceremony, Ms. Anat Zar, who has done it for 14 years in a row. I think this might be her last year doing it, but we just want to personally thank them for it. and of course the rest of the unbelievable, dedicated MSIH staff. Also want to take the opportunity to thank our New York office, who I think are watching now. Just want to say hello to them. I'm led by Dr. Lynn Quittel, who is usually here every year, but this year can't come because she's celebrating the birth of a new grandson. Okay, I think this graduating class, this is the moment you've been waiting for. Please stand up. Hats away on the count of 1, 2, 3, Mazel Tov.
Dr. Jonah Cohen and Luke Hartman, will you accompany him on the stage for the singing of Israel's national anthem, Hatikvah? Audience, please rise.
Baleva penima nefesh Yehudi homia ufate mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia. Lo avda tikvatenu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, lihotam chofshi be'artzenu, Eretz Zion ve'Yerushalayim. Lihotam chofshi be'artzenu, Eretz Zion ve'Yerushalayim.
Toda rabah. The audience is requested to remain in place until the academic procession has left the auditorium. Musica b'vakasha. Graduates, you may now leave the auditorium. Thank you all for coming and warm wishes to the class for continued success.